Hi, and welcome to Lifestyle by Design, helping you solve everyday challenges. My name is Andrea, and I'm the Director of Operations at Brookline Access Television.
And I'm Karen Jacobs. I'm Andrea's co-host for this show, and I'm a professor at Boston University and a Brookline Rotarian. We're devoting our whole show today to speaking with Sergeant Jessica Rivera. She's going to tell her story of starting at 17, going into the military, what it's like to be in the military, what decisions she'd made, what it was like being in Afghanistan with many, many photos, and what it's like now to be transitioning to civilian life. So, Jessica, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
And I'm so excited. Maybe you can say how you and I got to meet, because it's, I guess, the joy of technology in some ways,
right.
and networking as well.
So you and I, I was talking to Captain Eric Johnson at the time. He was captain, and I woke up one day and I said, I think I want to do what you do. And I said, where do I start? He's like, where would you like to go? Name any place, and I could help you. And I said, I thought Boston was always a cool city. I thought maybe at one point, even when I was in high school, maybe I would want to go to college there. He said, I know exactly who you need to talk to. Her name is Karen Jacobs. And so we ended up Skyping with you one day.
Right.
And it was myself, my good friend Leanne, and Eric, the three of us sitting on a couch together, Skyping with you. It was about midday for us, but I believe it was evening for you. And we just said hello, and we introduced ourselves and who we were and what we were doing. And I promised you that when I got back, I would make an effort to actually go visit you at school and see the campus and meet with you and the ROTC directors face to face, and we did it. We did. Myself and Lan, we showed up one day at your office and briefly couldn't figure out who you were or if you were the person that I was thinking, but it was. Ran right into you.
But when you were Skyping, it wasn't like you were sitting in a comfy chair in your house in the United States.
No.
And Eric is an occupational therapist in the Army. So the comfy chair or comfy couch, where was that located?
That was located in Fobshank, Afghanistan. The clinic is primarily made of, an outer layer tent, and then, we put in some reinforced wooden structures. Majority of the homey touches came from donations from schools like Boston University and Georgia and Arkansas and Michigan. And so we made it as cozy as possible. That was part of the focus of our treatment, was trying to make it comfy, cozy, a little bit more familiar and not so obvious of where you were.
And you were, when you enlisted in the military when you were 17 years old,
Yes.
is that right?
Yes.
What motivated you to enlist at 17? That's pretty young.
It wasn't any particular experience or incident. My oldest cousin, my oldest brother are both in the Army. It was always, I loved watching the movies. I loved the uniform. I loved the action. It was those very simple, childhood, likes. And it grew and it developed. And by the time I got done high school, some kids they're tired of school, or they're ready to go straight into college. And I wasn't really sure if I was ready to go straight into college. And I always still had the military idea in mind. And so I had no ifs, ands, or buts. I had no questions. So I went straight for it with two friends of mine from high school.
Okay, so that's great. So the decision was made, and you went into the military, and you did your training, right? And then, how did you come across meeting Eric? Now he is a major,
right.
Major Eric Johnson. Where did you meet him?
So Eric and I met on a combat outpost, or what we call COPS. It's basically a smaller operating base than some of the other areas in Afghanistan. I was attached with the 173rd 1st ROC Infantry Brigade, and so I worked solely with them, providing them the medical capabilities, but also being a female, because we have a cultural balance that we're trying to achieve in our missions out there. So I was attached with them, and I was out in the smaller COP, and Eric and his very, very good colleague, Teresa, they traveled out to us to give us a class about traumatic brain injury and the MACE exam. And they ended up getting stuck for a few more days because of the weather. They just couldn't fly out. So the more time we spent together, the more I realized, hey, I like this guy. He's a smart guy. He was professional. I had tons of questions, and he had tons of answers. And he was a good breath of fresh air because it was very isolating out there, and it was kind of the same thing every single day. Even though there was plenty of things to do and trauma coming in, some of the days were just long and drawn out. So he was a nice breath of fresh air, and he's always bright and bubbly. I mean, you know what his personality is like. Sure. So, I mean, it was great. And when I found myself going back to the FOB, or the larger outpost, I ran straight to him. I found his clinic, and I said, "Oh man, can I come work for you?" Because I didn't know how to adjust back to the larger group of soldiers that I was used to working with prior to leaving for deployment. I just kind of felt just out of place. So I wanted a place to start that was different than what I was used to doing. And Eric gave me that opportunity, no questions asked. And we worked together ever since.
So that's great. So when you went into the military, you chose to get trained as a medic? Is that how that works?
Yep.
Okay, and so how you connect with Eric as an occupational therapist was that just that opportunity.
The opportunity was there, and he needed the help. His occupational therapy techs, unfortunately, fell from one misfortune to the other, and he didn't have somebody working for him, which was very crucial for his position and for the program itself. He needed some kind of help. And his colleague, Teresa, she ran a completely different ward. So for as much as she was helping, and the physical therapist and the psychologist, everybody still had their own sections to run. And Eric needed a tech just like everybody else had a tech. And I didn't have to be an occupational therapist in order to learn. And he was very willing to teach. So it worked out great for us.
Great, and it sounds like it inspired you to now want to pursue becoming an occupational therapist.
It did. I was enjoying getting up every day and working for him. I was enjoying the freedom of being creative. I was just enjoying every part of it. It wasn't easy. By no means was it easy. And there are some days where we were just exhausted, absolutely exhausted, because Eric and I had responsibilities other than just the clinic. You had daily responsibilities. You had subordinates. You had physical training. You had training with the coalition forces. I mean, there's still all the other responsibilities you had to do, and it was day and night. The forward surgical team, attached with us, and the ICU and the lab and the X-ray, and all of that still had to continuously run.
Yes,
and
it's very demanding.
Very demanding, absolutely.
So what I thought, Andrea, is maybe Jessica, you can show us some photos and talk through some photos. And thanks for sharing them with us, because I think our viewers will find them really interesting.
And they're incredible, and you don't see things like this.
No, you don't. And I got to owe that all to Eric, because he was a great photographer. He was very motivated to doing it. I mean, he did a lot of, extra effort that nobody asked him to do, but it made everything that much better.
Yeah, it did. And later on I'll share the experience I had with Skyping. With Eric and some, and you, and then the projects that the students at Boston University did as well for the clinic. It was amazing experience.
It was.
So show us some photos.
All right. So the first photo that we have here, it's just breathtaking when you look at it. Eric, I believe, took this from a separate aircraft, and he was just looking out the window. Now you got to appreciate the fact that being this high up, it's extremely cold. So for him to actually hold still long enough to snap a shot like this, and for it to come out as clear as it did, it was incredible. I mean, he must have been freezing to death trying to do this.
So this is looking for our viewers. This is looking over what area in Afghanistan?
I'm not particularly sure, because Eric did lots of traveling, lots of it. He went from one area to another, teaching about the MAIS exam, teaching other medics. So I mean, this was just amongst his travels at one point or another. I would imagine this was early on in the deployment, because it was so cold. We got there around Thanksgiving time.
Oh, okay, okay.
And then here's just another view. I mean, it looks like you're on top of the moon.
Yes.
I mean, it's just so perfect. And, it's hard to describe Afghanistan as anything besides, terrible for most people. But it's not a horrible looking place. It's like there are actually beautiful things. I mean, I would say the majority of the soldiers I worked with, we could all agree on one thing. It had the most beautiful skies in the entire world. And we had come from Germany, beautiful mountains there. A lot of people come from, Texas and places where there are wide open skies and beautiful stars, and, people from a land of 1,000 lakes. There are beautiful skies and scenery everywhere else you go, but they've all agreed that this was probably some of the best they had ever seen.
That's great.
And one of the pictures that you shared with me prior to coming on today was all the greenery. I'm wondering if you have a picture of that, but I was shocked at how green the landscape was, and that you see a lot of pictures. There's sand. It looks like a desert climate, but That's not
true.
necessarily the case in all parts
No,
of the
no,
country.
it's not. And I was even surprised, you know, during my first deployment, I was surprised how much green there was. I really was. I was picturing, you know, the desert, I was sand and sandstorms, but, you know, I had never gone to Iraq, I never gone to Saudi Arabia. So I just had an impression of what I've been hearing from all the other veterans and all the other senior personnel to me. And, you know, that's what I was picturing. And then I arrived and I was like, there's huge mountains everywhere, there's snow, and there's actually green in lots of these places. You know, they farm regularly there. Wow. And it was always around. I was actually extremely impressed at the scenery being completely different. Yeah. I don't have that really nice aerial view that I must have shown you. I mean, it's probably best that we didn't show something so perfect either, because it does kind of give away that sense of security for those fobs. That, you know, those fobs still exist there, and it's very important that you're cautious with the photos that you take. And even Eric, you know, had to make sure that he combed through all these very diligently, because even by mistake or even by ignorance, it's very, very compromising. It's very dangerous for the people that are over there to have photos all over the social networking or all over the internet that you know, can kind of compromise their safety.
So the one that you're showing right now, there's a gorgeous contrast with a rainbow.
Yes, a rainbow from one end to the other. I've never seen that.
But what are we seeing here?
So if you look closely, you can see green tent, and then you see this kind of brown tent. That tent is not actually brown. It's actually covered with a spray-on foam. And it looks extremely crude when you can see it up close, but what it does is help reinforce the structure and help it to regulate temperature, heat, and cool. So some of the tents have it, and others did not. But I would say this particular building, if I can recall, you know, we used it as recreation. So, you know, for long periods of time, you know, it's nice to be in a regulated environment.
Sure.
And everything else it's just, you know, structures that, you know, we used to just, you know, keep the snow off, you know, keep paths clear, because this is where people travel when they're you know, they're hurt and they're injured. They're traveling from one section to another, whether it be the surgery or ICU or physical therapy or lab and dental and x-rays. So, I mean, all of these they're carefully constructed and they're reinforced because it has to endure such a long period of transition and multiple units traveling through.
So the green ones would be where you would have therapy and surgery. Okay. All right,
you'd be surprised. I mean, it's so simple, it's so basic. It's wood and it's tent, and it's, you know, it's not a sterile, perfect, clean environment that smells, you know, of Clorox and you know, extra shine. It's very crude. You know, we used a lot of antibiotics to prevent a lot of infection that was very, very possible during all these procedures. So it's incredible what we can actually do.
And with just a little bit.
And right here you see some of the artwork and some of the little banners that some of the students had sent us, and we purposely decorated the entire occupational therapy clinic with these, because it was important for everybody to know that the support of the students, you know, it was incredible, and it made things that much better and that much easier and that much more homey. And we wanted to make sure that they got some kind of credit, that they knew that we recognized what they did, and that, you know, the least we could do is take their, you know, mascot and stick it on one of our walls, because it was something to even relate to for some of our patients. Some of our patients, they had been to college before they came into the military.
So I'd love to share what we did at Boston University, because it was amazing. So Eric and I have been friends for years, and we had been Skyping each other while he was in Afghanistan, and I said, you know, Eric, we'd like to do something in the OT program at Boston University. What can we do? You know, what would it be? Just tell me. And so we decided that the students would make games out of cardboard, and we would ship them over, and the students loved doing that. We got our mascots and all that, and I said, Eric, truly, what is your dream? What is your dream? And tell me what it is. And he said, okay, don't laugh at me, but I'd love to build a candlepin bowling alley.
Oh, that's right, I remember.
I remember. And I said, what do you need to do this candlepin bowling alley? And he says, you know, I need candlepins and I need bowling balls. And I said, build the bowling alley and we will get them to you. And my son, Josh, loves candlepin bowling, and he took this on at his project, and he contacted bowling alleys all over New England till he found one that said, tell me how many pins, how many balls, give me the address, and I will ship them. Oh. And Eric built the bowling alley, everything was shipped, and he said it really made a difference in the morale of the soldiers.
It did, because not only was it great for the patients, but the soldiers that I had the privilege of working with, they were all stellar medics, stellar nurses and doctors, but it was a constant daily need. Somebody always needed you. It took a lot out of you, especially on a daily basis, daily. And everybody used to always go running to the OT clinic after work just for a place to be, because sometimes there weren't patients, and it was just a nice place to be. Nice place where we could go and even hang out, spend time. It felt safer there. It felt warmer. It felt just more away from what we were doing on a constant basis. And it wasn't. I could throw a rock to the clinic, from the aid station. So it wasn't far, but it felt far enough. It was really good for everybody involved, not necessarily just the patients, but for the professionals working.
So it was therapeutic for the professionals to be able to have opportunities to be together, play games. Just relax.
Yes, absolutely, because it was extremely stressful. It was constant. It was every single day. Somebody needed you, or more was needed. And you weren't sure how much more you could possibly give, and you surprised yourself every single day because you managed to just get up that day and give more, and try harder, and try to learn as much as you could, because you just didn't have all the answers all the time, and you didn't know how to solve every single problem, but at least we were all in that same boat together.
Sure, and we'll show some more photos, but I just want to say, we really appreciate all of the dedication that everybody has done to keep us all free. It's so much that soldiers give to our country.
They give a lot of sacrifice, and it's very thankless. And everybody goes into the military for multiple different reasons, but you end up working for the same reasons. You work for each other. The cause is an opinion, and your views on political, standings is different, but it all becomes about the person you're actually sitting next to, and I just want to help them get through today, and I want them to help me get through today. Sure. All of us can get through this day, and then finally we're eventually going to go home. That's what always kept us going. This is the main area of the clinic, and you can just see it didn't start off with all these things.
Sure.
It slowly built with every little thing, but all these books, all these movies, all these magazines, the dartboard, the TV, the Nintendo Wii, all these things were contributed by multiple different areas. And by the end of it, this is where everybody always wanted to be. It's like you wanted to hit yourself in the head so you can come. It was great. It was so great, and everybody was welcome. Everybody of different ranks, everybody of different, backgrounds, patients, professionals, just friends of your friends were able to come there. It's like if you had a moment to spare, if you had nothing else to do, if you weren't sure what to do with yourself, nobody at home was answering, it's still late, where can I go? And this was a safe place to be. It was a place where somebody could find you quickly, and you were always welcome, no matter what time of day it was. This was 2 in the morning, or this was 2 in the afternoon. It was absolutely great. These quilts on top of these bunk beds, those were all donated. All these different organizations and women sewed these all up. And they were so warm. They were great. And they all had different patterns and, very patriotic in color. And it was nice, because it was definitely something that could remind you of something grandma would make for you. Or something that you had sitting at home that you're just like, man, I never thought I'd see this kind of quilt again, or not at least for a long time. And, it's better than a wool blanket, a Green Army wool blanket. Oh, it was so much better than that. So much better. This is a picture of the mine-resistant vehicles that we're working with now downrange. They can take an amazing beating. They hit IEDs of all various different sizes, shapes, depths, and hidden in different places. And it can take a massive beating and keep everybody inside safe. It's not 100% perfect, because they just get better and better at making these IEDs. But I've seen vehicles start off like this, come back completely destroyed, and everybody on the inside is only rattled in their head, and that's what our clinic was for, to help cope through that. Sometimes they had busted chins from something moving in the vehicle, or their own body weights of them clashing together. But compared to when we had Humvees with sandbags, people were actually surviving. It was huge, absolutely huge. This is myself and Eric.
Great photo.
Eric, he finally really understood his patient's pain when he had to put on that brace. He had built so much in this clinic, so much hammering and nails, that he was experiencing a lot of elbow pain, a lot. And he finally realized, wow, this really does suck. He's like, I feel so bad for my patients now. So he actually got a full effect of a lot of the same aches and pains that he would treat. And he was always smiling. That's the smile that I don't think I've ever seen Eric mad. Maybe a handful of times. And you know, I've seen him sad a handful of times, but he was always ready to work. And like I said, it was beyond what he was ever asked to do.
That's great.
And in the background, if you went around this corner, that's where the bowling pins were.
Oh.
We made sure we laid down wood all the way as long as we could, the longest area of the tent. And that's where the bowling pins were.
Eric actually sent me a picture of the bowling alley, and I think he was bowling. And it was fantastic. It was just, you know, we couldn't be there, but we felt that, you know, we could make some contribution that would make people feel
And the contribution was huge. It would not have been as successful as a clinic if it wasn't for all those contributions made by organizations back home. It's like there's only so much, you know, you can get yourself, you know, that, you know, how the supply is running, you know, where money's got to go, who needs more right now, and all these contributions made everything that much better, that much more possible.
Well, you've made so many contributions, so now you are almost out of the Army.
No, I'm officially out.
Officially out.
Officially out, yes, very recently.
And what's that transition like to come from, you know, being someone's right arm person in a clinic, coming back with, you know, not your degree, your high school degree, and now trying to decide what you want to do. What's that transition? You were in the military 8 years, right?
Right. Yeah. At first, it was a lot of ideas. It's like I could do this, I can do that. I know I never want to do this, that, or the other again. And we have a mentality of it needs to be done now. I have to get it now. It needs to be done now, and it's very hard to get out of that mentality. There's a lot of transitional, you know, hardships. There is not only with dealing with friends and family, you know, dealing with the differences between your friends and family. You're the one who's changed too, and you've been gone for a very long time, and your experiences are different, and your buttons are different now, and it's hard to in one day try to get everybody on the same page as you. And you have to start realizing slowly but surely you can't get everything done right now. You do have to pace yourself, and you do have to, you know, you have your fit, and then you go right back into it. You know, it's a lot of little things you never had to deal with before, and now you have to deal with it every single day. I remember my first example was I have to pick out my clothes every day. It's always got to be something different. And I was like, I do so much more laundry now, and it was blowing my mind. And I was like, this was something I had the luxury of never having to really think about things like that. And now I'm like, wow, this is what normal people do. They pick out their clothes every single day, you know. Having pets, you know, all the time. It's like, oh, this is so great, but man, do they need attention, you know. They need it all the time. And it's like, oh man, it's like I gotta get cabled installed and electricity, and, you know, I gotta sign my first lease. And it's like, wow, a lot of people have already done this a couple times in their life, and it's like, this is my first time. Sure. And it's like, in some ways you feel really behind, and in other ways you feel like, man, I could do this with my eyes closed. Why is everybody complaining? You know? And it's a lot of learning yourself all over again, and really being honest with yourself, because it's not easy. It's not easy, and for a lot of people, they get a pretty big eye opener with the way they interact with people, how irritable they become, how irritable they get, the way they feel personally in different situations, like a crowded room or an airplane, or walking in the park, or even on a college campus. When I walked onto Boston U campus, I didn't realize how uncomfortable I would be at first.
Oh, interesting.
There's lots of students everywhere. And, you know, they're walking through the street, and they're weaving in and out, and they brush against you, and it's like, can everybody just get away from it? Like,
so you needed more body space from what you had in the military. So,
right.
So the transition can be challenging, it sounds like.
Extremely. And it's really extremely hard to admit just how difficult it might actually be for you.
Yeah.
And sometimes it actually takes the people closest to you to actually sit you down, shake you at the shoulders, and say, you need some extra help because you're transitioning a little poorly for the way you probably need to be, or the page you need to get on right now. It's like you're getting ready to start school, college, you need to start taking advantage of some of the programs the VA has to offer. You need to take advantage of those things you would preach as a medic, you need to start doing for yourself now. And it takes those people to really closely say that to you, for you to actually believe it, because sometimes you're the one who's keeping yourself from doing the right things and the healthy things.
So that transitioning, I think all of us have issues with transition. Transition's challenging, but it's sort of being open to what the possibilities are, the resources, your family, your friends, and feeling comfortable to be able to turn to them. So now you are starting a new job.
Yep.
Tell us about that in the last few minutes that we have on the show.
I will be working as a nursing assistant at the West Roxbury VA Hospital. I thought it was a perfect idea. I happened to be going in there to get registered, to make sure I was taking care of myself, and I thought, I wonder where their human resources is, and I wonder if I could ideally work here. And sure enough, I actually managed to get my foot right into the door. So in some way, I'm putting myself in a comfort zone. I'm putting myself back with familiar people, familiar settings, and it's going to help ease my transition process. And so I'm excited about doing it, but it's still a learning experience every single day.
Sure.
Before I used to know exactly where I needed to go to get a physical. Now I'm like, now where do I go? How does this work? And it's like, planning your retirement. You used to do it just in the military. There's 1 or 2 ways you can do it, and now you have options. Your options are so much bigger now, and a lot of times you're not educated. So you really have to sit and ask questions. You have to be humble enough to say, I don't understand this, or could you explain this, or I don't understand what this word means. And you have to do some research, do some reading. Reading can definitely be your best friend, because you will have a lot of questions. There's simply just things you don't know. So I'm excited, and I'm also trying to learn as much as I can too about being a civilian, being a normal adult, all the things that need to be in line.
Well, we're excited that you're going to be applying to Boston University, because your goal is to be an occupational therapist. And I have to say, one of the joys of my life is that you are in Boston, and you have been coming to our classes, coming to my open hours. Andrea got to meet you during one of the open hours, and that's how we have you on the show, because we were so excited about this. So thank you for being on the show, and thank you for your service.
Thank you for allowing me to, and just thank you for letting me share my pictures, and just it's healthy. It's a lot healthier than what people like to admit. When people actually engage you and talk to you, sometimes you get the same questions over and over, and you get tired of answering, but at some point it is helping you on some small level. Just being involved in programs like this and opportunities like this and taking advantage of it without trying to second guess it is actually helping me in some kind of way.
Oh, that's great. Well, we're thrilled. Thank you so much,
Thank
Jessica.
you.
Thank you for joining us. To find out more about our show, you can visit us online at batv.org. Thank you from Lifestyle by Design.
Thank you.